We are slightly early, but who are we missing? Neil. Is it mumblings from the press? Is that Neil coming out? Okay, we're going on the clock on the left-hand side, so we are going to start our meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody here for our first formal council meeting in the 2017. I'd like to welcome the people of the press and public. Thank you very much for joining us here today. So before we take our apologies, we'll have a karakia, and Paul Bailey said he's going to do that for us.
Thank you, Chair. We gather to make our decisions, to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens.
Thank you, Paul. That was very good. Do we have apologies? Any apologies? Well, we have Neil's busy upstairs doing something, so we'll just might record that Neil. Oh, Mike Mohi. Mike Mohi's somewhere too.
He's absent.
He's absent, yeah, okay. Thanks. We've moved for the apology. The seconder. Councillor Wilson. All those in favour of accepting the apologies? Thank you. Notices. There are no notices that we have to attend to. Conflict of interest declarations. Anybody got new conflicts?
Yes, yeah, just to make sure that it's noted on our interest register for both myself and Debbie that we have been appointed HBRC directors.
Yeah, there are potential conflicts in that.
Yeah,
we will register that. Thank you very much.
Just being a pain here.
Not you, Rick, not you.
The very uncharacteristic. But I just want to say, should that be something that each of the councillors write to the thing and say for themselves, because it's the conflict of interest register? Sure.
So now we've got confirmation of the minutes. Now, it's a long series of minutes. I'm presuming they are all, everyone has read them. We won't take it page by page. So for correctness, do we have anyone will move for correctness, or does anyone have any alterations to the minutes?
I'm happy to move.
For correctness? Do we have a seconder? Seconder? You haven't got them here. Second? They'll be on your computer. We have moved and seconded that the minutes are correct from the last meeting. All those in favour? Aye. Councillor Wilson will abstain because he hasn't got them with us. No.
So that was for the 14th of December?
Yeah.
Okay,
We need to do that. So we have minutes of the 14th and the 21st. Are they in Brown Rock too? Where do we have the 21st?
they were sent out separately.
You weren't there, Debbie. 21st.
Do you have a copy of those? I don't have a copy. Do you have a copy of that 21st?
Oh, I'm just checking Rick's section.
They're not in mine either. Is that there? Is that there? Yes.
Yeah, that's it. Here we go.
Okay, thank you, Andrew, for having that. The minutes, the 21st, meeting of the 21st, the minutes was a confirmation of the interim chair for HBRC, Sam Robinson. So there was one item, and you weren't present. Move those for correctness. Councillor Bailey, second. I'll second. All those in favour? Those minutes are correct. Carried. Right back. Did that. No, about to, Councillor. Oh, geez, you're always just one step in front of me. Matters arising from either minutes.
Well, Mr. Chairman, item 22 on the
page of the minutes. Which minutes page? 22. No, I haven't got those minutes either. Have we got those today? This here, item 20, confirmation of excluded minutes.
That was part of the that was part of the PE
PE.
minutes that have been distributed and that you will confirm down here.
Yeah.
At the back end of the meeting.
Item 16, councillor. We will attend to those. Councillor Belford?
On page 15, item 14, there's a brief paragraph about the report made on the Environment and Services Committee meeting. The last part of that reminds us that a request that all committee meetings be recorded video-wise is reported, and my question is, in what manner is that being actioned? Or what is the process for moving that particular recommendation which Fenton made and I strongly endorse? How is that going to proceed? Who can answer that?
Sorry, just to let you know, that'll be taken through the annual plan process so that we make sure that we've got the funding covered for
Cost
it.
implications.
Yep.
So we can paint portraits, but we can't videotape our meetings?
Do you want an answer on that?
It's a rhetorical question.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have the minute in front of me. It's still downloading. I did work out how to get in there. Where are we with the Ombudsman issue and the resolution of council at the last meeting?
Yeah, I thought we had that on the agenda. Oh, follow-up items. It is in follow-up items. Yeah. Yeah, it is in follow-up items. You would have noted that when you read the papers, Councillor. Any other matters arising? Just on your one, Councillor, that was a correct answer. So we've moved that we do that, but we need to understand the cost implications. Right. Any other matters arising? We don't have to move them, matters arising, do we? No. Okay. Follow-up items from the previous. I'll turn that to you, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Item 1, we've got a late item on the agenda for that. That's the ACC cash flows question. So if you're happy, we'll deal with that then. The notice of motion issue, Ombudsman. To give you a very brief summary of that issue, clearly there's correspondence attached. The Ombudsman wrote to myself and other parties just prior to Christmas. I can't quite remember the exact date. And as a consequence of that letter, information's been provided directly from Councillor Belford to the Ombudsman, and presumably it's in the process of being assessed. That's the status really. Yep.
The supporting letters mention that somewhere, but it's not clear. I did furnish to the Ombudsman the material to which the request applied, and under the understanding that it was not from the Ombudsman, that it was not his prerogative to release that information. It was simply for him to make whatever consideration, judgment about it he wishes to make. So it's in their hands, and I've not heard anything further since. So, yeah.
Okay. Rightio. 3.
Similarly, 3 is
Sorry,
dealt with.
Chair, just a question on that. Just process, I guess. I'm a little confused where we had a council resolution that we weren't going to furnish the information, and now it has been. Should that not have come back to council first? because we had a council resolution to say we weren't.
Did we?
No, the council resolution was to not release the information to the requester, which was former Mayor.
Yeah.
Right, okay, I stand corrected. Thank you.
If the ombudsman was
Separately,
itself,
the ombudsman
we
requested.
would not stand in the path of the ombudsman. because
Can we
that's
use
the
our
process.
phones? Yeah, that's right, that's correct. Yeah, usual.
Just to say that we agreed not to release it on our own motion to the requestor, but we agreed that should the ombudsman request the information
We would give it.
as part of the legal process, we would comply with that.
Okay, Andrew?
I missed the debate. But anyway.
So, where are we?
4.
Paul. So, that's the issue of notice of motion relating to GMOs, and there was a discussion around the actions, in particular the state of play with legislation, statutory change, etc. In that process, and that's scheduled on the March RPC agenda. Okay.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Bain? Thank you. 5.
Yep. 5, I think this probably take as read. Ian is here if anybody's got a particular question around that.
No, that's 1. 6.
Right. 6 similarly.
Chairman, I'd just like to note and congratulate Hawke's Bay today for last week reporting on this issue of water bottling and putting the matter into perspective and highlighting the insignificant volumes that water bottlers have drawn over, I think, a 3-month period compared to one orchard which had taken about 10 times the quantity just for their own particular purposes. So unfortunately it's one of these urban myths which are hard to put the lie to.
We'll note Councillor Dick congratulating Hawke's Bay today for their fair and open-handed reporting. Thank you. So the joint hazards done.
Credit occasionally.
Okay.
No thanks, I always pick the
You
worst
can move
photo.
to recommendations from the CDE in terms of reference provided.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
So, Mike, did you have any other comment on that, or just take it as read? Okay. Right. Similarly.
Transport Committee, read.
Okay. Oh, there's a fair list here.
Yeah, there is. It's part of the work though, isn't it?
Ian, do you have any further comment to make on submission to primary industries, future of our fisheries? Any commentary on that? Any questions on that?
Except it's done, it's in the papers. It's attached, yeah.
Yep.
It's very good too, we're going to talk about that later.
Yep. Similarly, we've got a schedule of workshops for the strategic plan refresh. That action item notes that.
Just on that, and James, I see you sent a happy Christmas email with a whole lot of holiday reading. Do you think you could flick it out again, please, for the strategic planning? Is it coming again?
We're going to send some more material to you,
Alright.
which is more concise and might be, at this point, better to focus on.
Alright.
So that'll be out by the end of the week.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be good.
12.
So item 12 I will comment on briefly. Clearly the council's resolved to appoint Sam Robinson as the interim chair till June 30, 2017. There is a need for consideration of a appointment of a independent director or directors for HBRC, skills composition process, etc., as well as with a view to a future chairperson. So that's scheduled at this stage for the 15th of February Corporate and Strategic Committee agenda.
Just on
Happy
that.
Debate
so-
whether that's the right place for it.
Yeah, no, I think that is the right place. We need to move along on it though, because we have a couple of directors who are signalling that they want to move on. But I did ask councillors to think about this over the Christmas holidays and come up with some thoughts of your own, and then we need to enact a process, Andrew. So can you get a process going on this? I don't know exactly, but advertising.
Yeah, look, that's fine. I just, I'll come back to you with a particular process for ratification, all right?
And then the councillors thoughts,
Yep.
they can just move into that process.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
13.
30
Oh, that's
November,
fine.
so
What's happening there, eh?
I have to admit, without Liz here, I'm not really personally terribly well across this.
I
Can you, James?
help with that one.
Right.
So, there's an ongoing discussion about the appropriate person to undertake the review of remuneration. As of yesterday, we received a request to draft a job description for the chair, deputy chair and tangata whenua members of the RPC to enable that to go to an independent party to size up the role, if you like. So that's a work in progress, and there'll be an update at the upcoming RPC on that.
James, who are you working with here? Because this is something high on their agenda. Are you doing this? Are you driving this? Or is Liz
So
driving?
Liz is doing this principally, but she's doing it with Toro and Tanya,
Okay.
and also with the contracted iwi advisors that we have
Okay,
on our
right.
books.
Was that not just for the Maori committee as well? That was my
I
understanding.
can't confirm on that, sorry.
If needs be, we can, if you would like further clarification, I'll get Liz. Liz is on leave this week, but back next week, so happy to make sure Liz just follows that up by email, maybe. Okay, the next action, Leanne, is complete. Okay. Discussion on the last meeting around water symposium. James, any comment on that? Or not?
Yes.
So, Chairman, perhaps.
No, you.
So Chairman and I had a discussion with the Chair of Ngāti Kahungunu Iwi Incorporation and the Mayor of Hastings District on Monday evening, and we've agreed to form a committee involving also Napier City Council just to oversee the preparation and organisation of the Regional Water Summit, and we'll bring back to this table the detail of that. Intention is to have it probably sometime in March, April at the very latest, but give us enough time to get things set up and certainly get past the bulk of the water inquiry issues.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, where does that sit alongside your water meeting? You, Lawrence, and Nikki?
This is now the two coming together.
This is it?
This is it.
This is it.
Yeah, that was the original vision statement, so to speak, and this is now the action where we're bringing in various staff. So we'll have 2 from Regional Council, 2 from Napier, 2 from Hastings, 2 from the Tai Whenua, or from Tangata Whenua, not Tai Whenua. I think the most important thing that was resolved at that meeting, one of the most important, is that we want to have this specifically for Heratonga as a stage 1. So we won't, the wider areas such as Central Hawke's Bay in particular and Wairoa, who have quite different and uniquely different. We didn't want to water we didn't want to water down the challenges that we have in Heratonga with our 2 major cities and the huge use of water and of course the small crises which we've been having. So we wanted an opportunity to be very specific and very targeted in our first symposium, and then we'll move on to the others.
James, I think you can keep going, can you? most of the rest are down the list are yours.
Number 6.
Tank meetings, so we're rescheduling those just to ensure that there's no double ups, and council and RPC members can attend, so that action is underway. In terms of the oil and gas, so we've got an update on the RPC agenda for February, but we won't have the full and final advice ready on that, but that's planned for March. The work is well underway. It's just that with the Christmas break, it was impracticable to have that all completed by next week. So the RMA legal opinion has been sought, and that will come together with that advice in March. Water conservation order. So councillors will recall that we had a draft submission that was put before Regional Planning Committee just before Christmas on the basis that there was a risk that the Minister might appoint a tribunal, and we therefore needed to get a submission on the process issues in early, and Council was delegated to finalise that. In the event the Minister hasn't taken his paper appointing the tribunal to the Cabinet Appointment and Honours Committee at this time, and is still giving consideration to the formation of that. We have some work underway looking at peer reviewing the minimum annual low flow estimates for the Ngātaroa, which are critical to this whole discussion. That's being undertaken by Cawthron Institute, and while that work is being undertaken, the Minister's office is certainly keeping a close eye on that, and the applicants themselves also have met with us, and they are interested in seeing that work completed before any special tribunal process on the WCO commences. So there's a bit of agreement to yet be reached on the science there, so that's coming through. Hariri, Ian, I don't know whether you want to cover that.
So that'll come back to the council through the ENS committee in March, and staff are working up, if you like, a scope for that work, the type of activities that are required and the costs, and so you can consider that then.
And similarly, that's item 21. Yeah, it's all of those.
Covers all of those things.
Yep. And yes, right through to 22. Okay. I think that's it, Chairman.
That's it. Okay, that's the follow-ups. Do we have someone to move that we accept? There were some huge issues on there. Councillor Barker, will you move? I will. Seconder? Belford, all those in favour?
Chairman, could I just ask if there's been any response from KiwiRail to our letter of 20th December? Does anyone know?
Not that I'm aware of, Councillor Dick, at this point.
All right.
Yep.
Not unexpected?
No.
Okay, all those in favour?
No.
Aye. We will accept the follow-ups. Call for items, item 5, items not on the agenda.
I have one item. Could I, about a council retreat?
Council retreat?
Yeah.
Yes.
Chair, prefer to call it a council advance myself, but Whakakī, I knew it was coming, Whakakī Lagoon.
CHB prosecution.
We have 3. Any more? We'll move on. So decision items, fixing the common seal.
Oh, do I need to comment on these,
No,
or just
don't
point out
think
that
so.
it's the usual stuff, and just leasehold land properties keep rattling through, really?
I'll move the resolution.
To resolution to confirm the action to fix the common seal. We have a mover, seconder. Seconder Hepburn Bailey. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Item 7, upgrade to council chambers. Could say Liz is here.
Yeah, Liz is not here, so I'm probably going to defer to
No,
the Chairman's
yeah.
wisdom on this one.
You're going to take us through it.
So look, anyway, cut a long story short, it's reasonably self-explanatory. The Chairman's raised in various fora the subject of the council chamber, how it's represented, and related issues that are laid out in this paper. What staff have done via Liz and Stacey Raki is looked at the existing budget for the council chamber issues, 70,000. Done some work on what additional expenditure may or may not be required.
and essentially laid that out for you for your consideration. So the recommendations, I'm happy to take questions. Paul, you probably cross these numbers as much as me.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd just point out that there's 3 areas of development put forward, or redevelopment put forward. The chairman's room, the conversion of that, and there's details of what's proposed there. The Hariri room, which is the one that you have your morning and afternoon teas and luncheon. There's some recommendations as to some replacements of furniture, etc. there. And then, of course, the council chambers. Okay. Now, there was 70,000 put aside for, as the chief executive said, 70,000 put aside for furniture and fittings and alterations. 40,000 of that was spent on the audio-visual equipment here in this room. That leaves 30,000 out of that sum for the current financial year. If council was a mind to approve all the expenditure in this paper, this additional expenditure in this paper, there would be a need to spend a further 37,000 in this current financial year. So that would be the impact of adopting everything, all the proposals in this paper.
Just before we go to questions, just want to confirm to everybody, the upgrade wasn't my idea. I guess when I become chair, the upgrade was already in motion. What my contribution to it has been previously discussed, that if we're going to do an upgrade, let's do it with a special objective in mind, and let's do a good job. So, well, I guess all of us have to take questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Start with you, Councillor.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a number of questions, and some of them I'd ask you to respond to with respect. The first is, why do you not wish to occupy the chairman's office on the first floor?
I want to see a clear difference from governance to chair. So I want to be in a public space, and this is a public space. I don't intend to spend office time here, so to speak. I live out of my computer, so I don't need an office. So basically that. And I think, yeah, I'd like to see a separation from governance and management, and there's a clear separation.
Okay. All right, I have a number of problems with this, and one is that by occupying councillors' room, you are denying councillors the availability of a working space, a telephone, a meeting space to meet with constituents. And I'd also note that that room is used frequently as a breakout room for meetings that occur in this chamber, and also in particular for hearings. So I just don't believe it's the appropriate space for you to go into and take over, with respect, or if council insists and supports you in this, then the council had better provide another councillor meeting space. Otherwise can't do our business properly.
So let me answer that in 2 ways. Firstly, it's not my intention to occupy the room. This is not a takeover bid. Calling it the chairman's room means all councillors can use it. I mean, I don't intend to be sitting there from 8 to 5 every day. So it is definitely a room that is available for councillors to have meetings and to do work out of it. And interesting enough, I've never seen a conflict. I've never been in that room, and I've been there several times, where a councillor has turned up and wanted to use it at the same time as I wanted to use it. And anyway, I wouldn't mind if that was the case. I do want to see it project some mana of the role, and it's not just the mana. I'm not being a Donald Trump here. It's not just the mana of myself, but the mana of the role of the chair. I don't think that does it. I don't think this chamber does it. I don't think the public entry does it. We'll go to other councils, such as the Wairau Council, and I'm hugely impressed as I walk into to their rooms. the Hastings chamber, if you walk into there, you feel, you know you are somewhere. And I want, when people come into here, when visitors come into here, they know they are somewhere. And I also want councillors to think in terms of, and it's not just the upgrade of this, and I'm taking a bit of flack for it, the upgrade of these facilities, reflecting the mana of our organisation, but it reflects a post-amalgamation view of the world. And I think in 2017, that's what we should be doing. We are the only council that extends from the south to the north in Wairoa, and we're the only, and we have a huge responsibility going forward, given that there is no amalgamation. And when Fenton was the chair, he actually spoke of that, and I 100% agree with that. So I was very pleased to see that when I had conversations about this with staff, that they already had a budget in place, so I didn't have to go out and ask for a budget because there was already a budget in place. And I think you're worrying about things that will not happen, and that this will be a very good change in our culture and an improvement of who we are.
Well, I can tell you that in the normal course of things, I would use or have to use that room or another room with a telephone at least twice a week on average. And why should I have to cause you the inconvenience of barging in and wanting to do something when you're occupying the office? I just don't think it's a good solution.
Well,
if you want it, have it, but give us another space.
there was thought that the tomato room could be used if there was a clash. But what I'm saying, if there never has been a clash, you might be using it twice a week. I've never seen you in there.
I haven't seen you in here either.
Well, that's right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Thanks, Alan. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's a room that we can meet people. So if we bring people, it should be a room that you can take people in and meet them there.
All right, I've got a couple of other questions,
Before we move
if you
to-
don't mind.
No, sure.
And one is that why has this proposal emanated from yourself and not being brought from tangata whenua representatives on either Maori Advisory Committee or the Joint Plan Committee?
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
Okay. Secondly,
and
this is
just-
important too, why has this matter come straight to council rather than going to, say, corporate strategic or joint plan or somewhere to ensure that the matter can be double debated?
I have no idea why. It's irrelevant. I mean, I think you're just putting obstacles in the way of progress.
I'm just trying to see that things are done through recognised process, which gives us the best decisions in the end.
Well, you know, I would argue that some of your decisions have been the best decisions, quite frankly, but nevertheless.
Well, likewise.
Yeah, well, that's right, too. So we're just going to differ on that. I'll take Councillor Hewitt first because we go around the table.
Thanks, Chair. I too appreciate access to the room. There are times when I travel in between meetings, and it's I appreciate the space that has been provided in the last term. And next week's a good example where we finish at 12:30 and I haven't got another meeting till 5. So the opportunity to kill time is important. And I also appreciate that there is quite a limited amount of meeting space in the room. I tried to have a meeting with Councillor Dick recently, and there were no rooms available in the whole building, and there was actually a staff member in there in our council chamber because they were just overflowing. So my question is for you, Andrew. I understand that we probably as councillors use this space, I don't know, maybe 15% of the time outside, I'd suspect, this space here, and it's also used throughout the week by other groups. And so what sort of consultation has been done with all of the other groups that use this space to make sure it's going to meet their needs? And what sort of consultation has been done with as I understood it, that 70k that was put in the budget had been done after one of the staff members going, for instance, to Greater Wellington, is that correctly? And checking out the audio, and it was part of a recommendation to improve acoustics in the room. Yeah, so there was some other considerations being given to what had built that 70k up. How are those things fitting into this recommendation? Are we better to be going and double debating this, as Councillor Dick is suggesting? Because a lot of parties use this space, so are we coming up with the best solution?
Well, it's not my job to comment on whether it's the best solution or not, frankly.
But
So if I can just
the
piss me
input
for a
into
moment.
this
Yeah,
other users.
the key thing about this space is it is the prime public space of the organisation, and it's clearly the primary point of debate and governance. And yes, it is used extensively by a number of groups. Internal meetings are used quite extensively internally. It's used extensively externally, and that's to be encouraged. I mean, I think the more the room's used, frankly, the better. Really, the better utility of the space. So I simply sit there and say, well, I'm not actually absolutely across all of the detail of the audio stuff that was happening prior to my return here, but. Look, sorry, I'm really, this is a key councillor governor issue as to how you want your space to be represented and portrayed and utilised, actually, really.
So the staff haven't had input into.
No, look, the staff have worked on costings, what can be done, how space can be organised. Staff have done that.
So, all right, so then Rex.
But it's fair to say we haven't looked at the issue that the question that Councillor Dick's raising is there are other space that councillors could use if there's an issue with utilisation of the room next door. We haven't done that.
So under this single debate scenario, Rex, our chair, where can we be suggesting areas of improvement that we see necessary as well?
Look, just to make it clear, I'm not hiding from the debate on this issue. If you want to, if we want to take this to our workshop and debate it, then I'm happy to do that. This is a concept that I had early on, prior to Christmas, and I did talk to some staff members who, because I found out that they had a plan to fix the carpets and do bits and pieces. I have a particular concept that I want to drive, and Councillor Dick's right. I do want to drive that. There's quite a few other things I want to drive too, by the way, and they will surface over the next 6 months. I won't win all, but I will win some, and some people will support me. But I do feel, as chair, that is my job to drive certain things in our economy and in our community. So Councillor Dick and I are a little bit at odds on that. But I'm not going to push this over the line if people, although I'm quite passionate about it, I have to say, because I think this place looks like East Germany, and it has no recognition of who we are and what we are and from our history. And as I said, we are the council that is going to embrace the entire region, and we need to look like the entire region. So I am quite passionate, but I'm really happy to have an open debate. And if it doesn't go through today, I would like to, and even if you want to debate it next week, I'd be quite happy to do so. So, yeah, I'm not trying to breach any processes here. Councillor Belford, you want to comment?
Are you taking both questions and comments? Or?
You can do what you like, yeah, questions and comments.
Please don't tell me to do what you like. Please.
My question is simply for some clarity.
Everyone else is.
Some clarity about what we would be approving here, because in item 9, it would appear that to do what is being suggested, we need to approve an expenditure of $37,000 in excess of budget already provided. But when you get to the recommendations, it's not clear that we're actually being asked to approve. It says 13,000 in number 2. The Ahuriri room, if I refer back, is another 7851. 5.3 refers to $45,000. So I'm a little unclear. What actually are we being asked to approve by way of expenditure? New expenditure.
Fair question, Councillor. If you look at the recommendations,
you're being asked to approve the expenditure of $13,000 for the conversion of the room over there. Then effectively the resolution effectively approved the chairman entering into dialogue, whether you call it negotiation or dialogue, with treaty settlement partners around other aspects of changing the shape and feel of this particular chamber here. And I would expect that particular piece, if you agreed with that, would need to be brought back in terms of its fiscal implications, actual financial and fiscal implications at the point which that
Yeah, but there's,
has some
but
substance.
exclusive of the
Yeah.
the carvings and all that part of it, there's in 5.3, there's an identification of $45,000 of improvements, excluding carvings, paintings, et cetera. So are we being asked to sign off on that as well?
Well, it's fair to say that it's not discreetly written into this resolution. But I would probably advise you that until such time as you had a complete framework for the way and shape and feel of this chamber that essentially is passed by council resolution with detail, I wouldn't spend anything more on this council chamber until that's complete.
So I guess my comment then is that I'm sympathetic to the direction that Chairman wants to take with this, but I'm opposed to the process, and I'll vote against this.
Paul?
Yeah, no, thanks for clarifying that. Exactly what we've been asked to approve. That was a question I had in my mind as well. But just a couple of comments. I too are a regular user of the councillor's office, and I think I've only once had a clash, Chair, and that was when you were in there, and we sat down and had a cup of coffee, which was excellent. And I find it remarkable that if we're going to insist on having a councillor's chambers or councillor's office here based in Napier, why we haven't got one in Wairoa, why we haven't got one in Central Hawke's Bay, and why we haven't got one in Hastings specifically, so they can meet constituents and do their work. I find that sort of a little bit iniquitous. So I'm quite happy for it to be all jammed in under the chairman's or chairperson's office. As for why haven't we been, why are we making this approach rather than coming from the other way? Why our treaty partners aren't approaching us? It's actually not. So I think it's quite unnecessary to expect the treaty partners to approach us to do something like this. So I think it's really important that we acknowledge that we do have treaty partners and that we acknowledge the space that we'll be meeting with them in. And I think this is a good way of going about doing that. My only suggestion about the proposal that you put forward to us, Chair, is that I don't think it extends far enough. I think we could also do something about decorating the actual entranceway into the building, but much the same way as they have done in Wairoa, but that's fine. Thank you.
Just questions. I've got some comments when we get to the end, but first question is the carpet on the wall. My understanding it's got a function which is civil defence as much as anything. If this room is ever utilised as a civil defence centre, this becomes the hub of whatever the emergency or the activity is, and maps, all sorts of things, sit reps, everything is sort of put up on the wall. So the question probably to Ms Lambert, who's not here, but we'll go with Mr Drury, is has that been considered in any of this paper that at certain times, sure we can adapt and whatever, but I mean that was the reason why it's, my understanding why it's set up like this.
Thank you, Councillor. No, I'm not able to answer that question, but I will see whether Stacey Raki is in a position to answer that. Would you like to come up, Stacey? Stacey's done these costings and worked closely. Stacey's the one that looked at other councils through other regional councils. And just to come back on clarifying what staff actually did there is they looked at audio visual and they looked at upgrading this room. And that's and the audio visual, as we've said, is done, and the upgrading of this room is actually part of this. Yeah.
Okay, so the just to comment on your question, Fenton, the carpet on the walls that was put there to when this boardroom was used as a civil defence base. That's now located at Hastings, so we have no need to have all the carpet on the walls anymore.
Assuming Hastings is still standing. On the
Won't be flooded.
So on that basis then, follow-up question, $70,000, that's 70,000 budget provision, that's for the whole building?
That was a furniture budget.
Fittings for the whole building though?
Yes.
Not just the chamber?
That was an extra provision for council chamber furniture as well. But we had a higher need to upgrade the audiovisual equipment here first.
So that's already been spent?
Yes. Only 40,000 of it.
40,000's already gone. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Just a question and a comment. In regard to the councillor's room, there's an area at the back of the table which is sort of a cubby hole, and it's got some, I don't know, stuff in
A
it.
desk and
That's completely non-utilised.
that's getting taken out.
Okay, so I'm not quite sure what the redesign's going to be, but I suspect there may well be enough space to have a small meeting room as well as a councillor table in that entire space, and I'd quite like to see a diagram of what's being proposed, which might address some of the issues that are being raised around the table. Is that possible?
Yeah, sure, we can look into that and I can get back to you.
Okay. So the other comment from me, I'm sympathetic with the initiative you've taken, and I have no problems with the chair taking an initiative of this type. My only comment would be in regard to the configuration in the front of the rooms here, is that it's looking at entirely iwi things to put there, cultural things to put there, but that doesn't necessarily entirely represent the region that we're here to represent, and I think we may need to think about this, and it may be that we should be focused on the rivers or the bay or orcharding or some other things that are iconic to our area, as well as just these cultural things.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to ask some questions about the $40,000 spend on the audio-visual equipment here in the chamber. This came to me as a complete surprise to read this. I had no idea we'd spent that amount of money. What have we spent it on?
So we have a new projector and screen that's high def and a lot easier to see. We had complaints from members of the public that they couldn't read what was up on the screen. So we've now got the back screen as well. We had a room control added that Leanne can easily adjust any settings to the council chamber, so someone doesn't keep having to get up and down to do that from the panels over here. That also controls all the projector, so it's seamless. We also have some lapel mics that for presenters that, like, for example, now I'm turning to point to the screen, they might have some detail on the presentation screen that they need a lapel mic to be able to stand and point to those. Yeah, that was...
Well, there's several things that I thought were a problem with this room. I'm sorry I'm directing the news. I should direct these at the chief executive, not at you. Sorry? No, I just feel that this is that the staff member here, I'm a bit miffed about this, because we have had problems about the sound system quality here for some time and asked for an upgrade. So we've got a better quality sound system. Now, a lapel mic and a screen and so on, and a fancy thing to control the thing, doesn't address that problem. That was the fundamental problem here. Second point, there's been constant complaints about the air conditioning system in here, which it blows cold and people freeze, or blows too hot. We agreed we'd do that. And the lighting in this room is abysmal. There are patches where you can see and patches where you can't, and I thought we were going to do something about the lighting. So for me, as a councillor working in this environment, there's nothing here which has markedly changed out of the 40,000, the working environment for me. Nothing.
I think you'll find the lights are off and they can be turned on.
No, I understand that. No, I understand. If you turn these lights all the way along, when you go round this room here, there are some parts of this here, councillor, some parts the light shines clearly on your desk, and other parts you're slightly in the shade. You
Yep.
can't. I did show. And if you have a look, it's just not an even light. Yeah, some places it's good, sometimes it's not.
Okay, we are getting, there's the upgrade's not totally finished, and there is more lighting to go in the central oval here, so you will have extra light there as well.
But the point, I surrender.
And you do, next year we do have a provision for new mics and speakers and what have you. So that will be done next financial year.
So
The
Stacey,
point I wanted to make here is the issue that councillors had, well, I certainly had, was about the working environment here for us as councillors and so people could hear. The key elements of this, none of which has been addressed, in my view. You might have a different view. Turn all the lights on, we might be able to see. Yeah, quick answer, but it doesn't solve the problem.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm sure Councillor Barker will see the light eventually. Mr. Chair, there are obviously a number of issues that need to be resolved in terms of the physical working environment, and clearly, by the sounds of it, they are continuing to be addressed. Whether they're in excess of the $40,000, I'm not clear, but it sounds as though the improvements just talked about would cost more than $100. I've got a level of comfort with some reorganisation of the councillor's room in the way you've suggested. I think that's a good move to take some of those make some of those changes. I do have some reservations though if the visual representation of the paper in terms of the carving entrance to the chamber are as represented here. I don't know whether that's quite what you may have intended, but certainly that needs to be a bit more subtle than is represented there. I would comment, Mr. Chair, that I visited the Tauranga Council's chamber in the last few days and noted some extraordinarily good artwork. I note your desire to put Dead Poets Society on the wall, but I wonder whether we could consider other options around cultural representation in addition to, say, photographs of elderly past people. Maybe we could look at more subtle ways of representing the cultural aspirations. So I'd be interested in another paper coming back to council with greater clarity around the financials and perhaps a little bit more detail, as someone mentioned, around the floor space of the council chamber itself, so that we're able to come to a sensible conclusion.
I'd like to move that we table this this particular recommendation, and we be asked to consider a further paper that does speak a bit more to the variety of issues that have been raised here, and because some of us, I think, would like to support the intent of what you're aiming to do here, but there seemed like there's some, a little bit of sloppiness to how this has been put together at this point, frankly. So I'm making a formal motion to table leave it on the table.
That's very sensible. We have a mover and a seconder to leave the motion on table. Yes, you did.
Which means there's nothing to discuss, Chair.
That's fine.
Put the motion and move on.
We can discuss this, can we not?
Not a motion to table.
Procedural motion is quite right.
Pardon?
A procedural motion is not to be discussed, not voted.
All right, well,
So we have a motion.
the problem with this, I may vote against it because there are things that still need saying, to be honest, to get some, hopefully, a better direction out of this. So I think I'd have to vote against
So we have a motion on the table to, I have a motion and a seconder to leave it on the table so that we can have an opportunity to discuss this further. All those in favour? Aye. Against?
Against.
We will move to the next item. Thank you.